We're going to be going over the February outlook for 2025 in this video with temperature trends, precipitation trends, and everything that you need to know about the weather pattern in February this year in this forecast. So if you are new here, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're getting close to 125,000 subscribers, only a few thousand away, and you can all help me get there simply by pressing the subscribe button down below, sharing this video with friends, family, and on social media, and of course pressing that like button down below. It's the thumbs up button. I definitely appreciate it. So let's get into the forecast. Let's first kind of go over a review of January so far, and it has been the coldest January in a widespread basis since January of 1994. So it has been quite a while, a couple of decades, since we've seen a January so far this widespread cold across the lower 48, and as well as the precipitation. We have had no short supply of snowfall. While yes, there have been some areas that have missed out on significant snow or snow altogether, we have had some significant and even historic winter storms this January of 2025. We started off seeing some heavy snow in the mountains out west, the Cascades, parts of the northern Sierras, and the northern Rockies, especially up into Idaho and Montana, have been very much hit by snow this year. We also had that Ohio Valley snowstorm that translated into the Northeast. And everybody knows about the historic Gulf Coast and Southeast snowstorm that dropped 8 inches or more of snow even in the New Orleans area. So definitely seeing a lot of the snowfall out there this January. Now, where do we go from here? So we're going to be in a weak La Nina pattern. The Climate Prediction Center has that continuing even as we go into February, over 80% here. And as we go even into early March beyond this point, we're still seeing weak La Nina conditions remaining around 58 to 60%. So what does this mean? So when we have a weak signal for La Nina, as far as our temperature anomalies are concerned, typically our coldest air in February will be found up across the northern U.S., especially the northern Rockies, the northern plains like the Dakotas and Nebraska, but also the upper Midwest. And the cold air doesn't make it as far south as what we saw in January. Notice you have a yellow signal here. That means above normal temperatures down near the Gulf Coast and the Southeast, and some of that extending even up into the Mid-Atlantic as well. And when you have a weak signal of a La Nina like we have this year as well, the precipitation is affected by that. We've already seen a very dry California, especially Southern California, been very dry in the desert Southwest. We have had moisture recently, but definitely overall been a very dry winter so far. Also been pretty dry in Florida, even though we've had moisture there too. Been pretty dry there. And it looks like our Februaries, we have more precipitation really from East Texas up through the Tennessee Valley into the Ohio Valley, even parts of the upper Midwest seeing that as well. And notice the Pacific Northwest here in February is when we have a weak La Nina, typically see wetter conditions, whether that's rain or that's snow. So will this continue? Let's go into the temperature outlook here for the first week of February. This is February 1st through February 8th here, and you can see the warm air across the southern U.S. That's kind of what we're seeing here this week. That'll continue to translate into next week, into the first week of February. Colder air will be bottled up to the north. So southern Canada and the northern U.S. will have the best chance for cold air outbreaks, especially around the Montana region into Wyoming and the Dakotas. Some of that air trying to bleed southeast toward Iowa, Wisconsin. It's going to be kind of a glancing blow there, I do think. And then looking at the storm track, going to be more of a zonal flow for the first week of February. What that means is zonal flow from west to east. Think of it as a windshield wiper. Kind of goes from west to east when it's wiping off the raindrops on your car. Kind of what the weather pattern and the jet stream will be like in the first week of February. So watch those storms come across the west and the Pacific Northwest, and they'll move straight east pretty much as we go into the first week of the month. This will bring some snow, and this is capable of producing snow in parts of the country that haven't seen a lot so far this year, such as the northern plains, the upper Midwest, and parts of the Ohio Valley. Something to watch as we go in through the first week of February. Could bring a lot of snow to the mountains here across the Pacific Northwest, and again, yes, more Great Lakes snowfall as well. A couple of areas that have seen a lot of snow so far this season. Now, what happens as we go into the second week of February? So February 8th through February 15th, okay? So this goes through the mid-month time frame. Notice the cold air gets a little bit stronger, and it has a more of a southeastward push to it. So we see some of those below normal temperature anomalies getting down into the Texas Panhandle, Oklahoma, into Missouri here, and parts of the western Ohio Valley. While we still have that southeast ridge, it's a little bit more squashed in the second week of February. February, so it's a little bit further south toward the Gulf Coast and over here to the southeast coast, but we're milder in these orange areas, colder in the blue and green areas. And you can see here, here's the storm track becoming a little bit more amplified as we pull that colder air down. It's shifting that ridge a little bit further south and east. We're going to have storm systems coming further south, so hopefully we can get moisture in California. That'll translate down here across portions of the southern plains, and then those low pressures will kind of be down here toward the Texas-Oklahoma panhandle and then lift up toward the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and the Great Lakes. And this would be a great setup for heavy snow in Chicago and areas just north of Chicago like Green Bay, Milwaukee, La Crosse, the Twin Cities, Des Moines, Omaha, and Lincoln, Nebraska. This would be a wonderful track for heavy snowstorms. And then obviously under that low track, you'll have ice storms, and then further to the south, we could have heavy rain and severe weather outbreaks for the deep south here with those warmer temperatures in the second week of February. What about the second half of February? Here's the third week. We go from the 15th of February through the 22nd. Notice the cold air retreats a little bit further off to the west. We bring that ridge back, it retrogrades and builds a little bit further west as well, pulling a little bit more mild air further north toward Chicago and toward Des Moines into the third week of February. And that means our storm track is going to be shifting just ever so slightly a little bit further off to the west. The cold air will still be there. It'll be just shoved a little bit further west. So there's still going to be cold air for these storm systems to tap into and produce some snowfall. And yes, we could still see some snow across the Pacific Northwest. The Sierras in this pattern could get hit very hard. And then across the Central Plains, the lower Midwest, and the Ohio Valley will be a prime candidate for potential snowstorms with wet snowflakes in that third week of February. Now, finally, the last week of February, the 23rd through the 28th, notice we are seeing that cold air kind of remaining off across Western Canada and the Western United States. The ridge also kind of a weak signal across the south and the east as well. What does that mean for our storm track? A little bit uncertain here. Could have more of a zonal flow, again, just like we see the first week of February, and that may bring a little bit more of those warmer temperatures further north, and so that could affect the snowfall forecasts and bringing that snow line further north as well, back to areas like the Dakotas, Lincoln, Nebraska, Des Moines, the Twin Cities, Green Bay, La Crosse, even over there towards Grand Rapids, something to keep an eye on here for the snowstorm track a little bit further to the north. But notice the Sierras, the Cascades, and the Northern Rockies getting pummeled potentially by heavy snow in late February here this new month. If you are new here, make sure again to subscribe to the channel as I walk you through the latest weather information. It's accurate weather information on this channel. Yes, take this video with a grain of salt. I know I'll have people on here telling me, well, this is so inaccurate, you're looking so far out. Folks, this is just a monthly outlook. It is to be taken with a grain of salt, obviously, but this is a trend. The trend is your friend. So that's all I'm presenting to you is the trend. Things will change, finer details will change, and as we get closer. That's enough of explaining myself. Subscribe to the channel, follow along with all my detailed, accurate weather breakdowns. Like the video, give it a thumbs up down below. Also share this video with friends, family, and on social media, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their day out there.